invite Connie Christensen. She's not here yet. Jeanette Christensen, and I think Don Bell, and possibly Alan Jolliffe. Is that right? Or
yes, we're all here. Thank you.
You're all here together. Friends of Christchurch Botanic Gardens. Two of you. Okay. Sorry, it's Jeanette and Don. Alan's going to be kept quiet.
He's a support.
He's a support person.
But
That's
he could
wonderful.
answer questions.
It's wonderful. You can bring him to the table if you want to, but you know, it's.
Would you want to come sit up here now? Thanks. Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity, everybody. I know you'll be just about blinded by submissions, but we feel we've got something to add. Excuse me, I'm just going to... I'll just do a quick introduction of who we are and what we do as Friends of the Botanic Gardens, and then I'd like to, in speaking to the submission, I'd like to try and convince you of why we think you should spend the higher option of finance on the botanical gardens in your long-term plan as a great investment. And then once I've done that, I would like to give you a few examples of what we think are really important for our beautiful botanic gardens. Thank you. So I don't know if many of you know who the Friends of the Botanic Gardens are. I guess you do. There's friends of all sorts of things around Christchurch. So we are the only organisation that just support the botanic gardens, and in our way we support them monetary and physically and as volunteers, and we provide extra funding options for things that the council perhaps cannot do. In that time, we've been established now for about 28 years. 1989 was when we first put the society together, and we are one of the major interfaces, I guess, with the public for the Botanic Gardens. We share the vision of the gardens, which is multifunctional research, conservation, education and display, and we look for a revitalised 20th century garden with diverse plant collections and the particular relationship that the gardens have with people of Christchurch. In our support, we have propagating teams that grow plants from the gardens and elsewhere to sell and raise revenue for the gardens, and we have two teams working on a Tuesday and Thursday, and at the moment we are making over $1,000 a month to put towards their funds to give to the gardens. We have enthusiastic ambassadors and our guides who steadfastly show up every day at the museum entrance to guide, and that is happening between September and April in the year, and they stop in the winter. They also raise some money for the gardens, and particularly with their tours of groups. We also have volunteers that do a range of things. So there's help with the visitor experience team in putting projects together, like the Mission Impossible project, the bringing diversity back to your gardens is a current one underway that we're helping with. The I've lost it. No, I haven't. We gave money to the herbarium, and we have annual grants twice a year that we put out for the garden staff and offer them to go to conferences and things. That's contestable funding at the moment, so we're quite happy with how that's going. We put out a four monthly newsletter, and that is, we're combining that with garden staff, so that goes mainly to our friends to inform them what's happening. But our relationship with the gardens has been made on a more permanent basis with our MOU, which was signed last year actually. So that's put us on a more formal footing. We also provide talks, a series of talks every month. Once a month we have people coming in, experts coming in to speak. So you're going to ask me why we think as friends of the gardens that you should provide lots of money to help this wonderful asset. Well, over the last 2 years at least, the gardens have been on hold. Quite frankly, there's been hardly any development at all. There's been a lack of management, and there's lots of reasons why. I won't go into that. That's probably, you're aware of that already. And in that time, staff have been wonderful. They've stepped up into higher positions to keep the gardens running. There has been some public criticism, as you probably know, over the past years, but we think that the people that have stepped up to manage the gardens have done a good job. We don't want to look back, we want to look forward, but sometimes to look forward you have to look back for just a few minutes to see what's possible to go forward with. We think it's exciting because there's a new manager being appointed right now, and that manager will be have overall vision of the gardens with his support crew, Botanic and Garden Parks. He has been charged and challenged actually to revitalise and restore our public space in the gardens. It's rated number one on TripAdvisor, but we believe if there's not some money spent there, it's not going to hold that position because of what's not possible without something behind to support it. During the time in this holding period, and I'm going to call it a holding period because there hasn't been a lot of development, there has been some exciting things happen. There's been an internal review, and there has been a spatial plan put into action with a vision for the next 50 years. So this means that we have now got something that's planned and mapped to go forward with. So this is a chance to do something really of world-class significance, I guess, in the gardens. I think the funding needs to just support the gardens to catch up where it has been on hold over the past few years. Some examples of what we would like to see happen. At the moment, the Botanic Gardens have 3 trainees, and we believe it is very important, although it is not as down as a funded option, to employ more trainees in the gardens. These trainees, we need to bring back youth in this area to actually train them up so that they're there for our future support of the curators of the gardens, the section curators, and get more younger people interested. Yes, it's sad that it's only subject to funding and not funded, so we'd like you to consider that as something that needs to happen for the future of the gardens. As you come into the gardens from the Armagh Street entrance, I don't know how many of you have been over the last months. If it's raining, you need gumboots. It's not a particularly good entrance to have to this wonderful public space. Car parking is haphazard, and there's need for great development in that area and over the Armagh Street Bridge to come into the gardens. It really does need some work. And I'd like to suggest that there's a wonderful opportunity for council to increase that parking space. Knowing there's no more of Hagley Park allowed to be used, there is an opportunity in the old bowling green site. And it is, I think, empty at the moment. There's a building being demolished, and I know that in the garden show that we had, the Horticultural Society put on that wonderful garden show a couple of weeks ago, we were able to use that as extra car parking for the exhibitors. So it is available, so please consider that, to extend the car park on the Armagh Street entrance. It's always full, you can never get in. We go early to get a park. There's queues, and I believe, and I think it's right, that some people park there to go to the hospital, and also now with less parking on the street along Harper Avenue for the sports people actually park in that Armark street car park as well. So we're competing, and we need visitors to come to the gardens, and they want to come. We're really happy to see the infrastructure that is proposed in the park's operation plan. Things like Wi-Fi throughout the gardens to bring it up to date and move it into the 21st century. A lot of people use apps on their phones now. They want to Google things to find out what plants are, etc. So we need you to consider the Wi-Fi, and that is down on the plan, I realise, for the next 3 years if you don't cut the funding. So we hope that's what happens. Pathways and interpretive signs. If you visit Dunedin Public Botanic Gardens, you'll find that the signage is quite expansive. Don, you were able to add to that?
Yes, well, certainly. I was able to visit the Dunedin Botanic Gardens a few weeks ago, and I was very impressed with their standard of maintenance and their interpretive signs they had placed around the gardens. It's very well done.
Thanks, Don. Yes, and yeah, heating, I believe, is on the agenda, and that would be a wonderful asset to have. The infrastructure needs to be put in place before we can move forward, I think, with the gardens. I don't know if any of you have walked past the old information centre lately, but there's a terrible smell comes out of the toilets. That's just an aside. Okay. We believe and would like to see us keep the botanic part in the gardens. And with some of the new wording that the parks people have proposed to put in there, they're looking at not just a place where the public can visit, but a place where they can go to learn, to see plant collections, to see what's available in parts of the world, and we would like to see that absolutely included in the next few years in the development by keeping that science in and the botanic in the gardens, because it's very important. Some people just go there, as you know, for relaxation, others go there to eat, but a lot of people come to learn and see what's available in other parts of the world and in our southern hemisphere. We're very pleased that there is provision coming up for the refit for purpose for the old information centre. That is in the budget, and we urge that to happen because I believe it's going to be a seed bank and a place where visitors can come to do some research. I think with the new herbarium in the gardens, which by the way the Friends contributed a lot of equipment to that, to quite a few $1,000, the cabinets and the fridges and things like that. So we're set to go, I think, as a scientific, interesting place to be, as well as just a recreational space. So that's why we would really like council to keep that funding there at least, but increase it if you can.
That's great. Look, thank you very much. It's we've gone over the 10 minutes, I'm afraid, and
okay.
To be fair to everyone else who's come to make submissions, I'm going to have to move on to the next submission.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.